going live. And we are live.
We're live. And we only have one camera to look at, so I don't think I can get this wrong. But it's funny because the smiley face is on the tripod that has no camera.
Oh, we switched. I forgot I moved the smiley face for a live build. So, yeah.
No, it's good. Speaking of live builds, we might be having one this week.
Hey,
huh, Willis?
Yeah, that'll be fun. Just you and I doing a build. Well, I haven't done that.
I know.
Since I've been here.
I missed your build, so I guess this is like redemption.
Yeah. We'll try to get some.
Oh, I'm hearing something. Oh no, is it me? Did I pull a wheel?
That was me. That was me. I pulled a wheel. I thought I was
mute.
I think that's the first time I've ever done that.
I know. I was like, oh, I guess someone's keeping the tradition.
I just switched to a new laptop and it's a little wonky.
Oh, someone says no sound.
Wait. Hello?
What?
There was definitely sound on my stream, so I would suggest refreshing.
Test.
Yes,
making
I
sure.
am the host today. Hello.
Hello.
Adam's off doing fun things with Will. So here I am. Yep. I actually could wear my beard again just because Adam is not. Oh, maybe I.
You want to don the beard again? I didn't grow it out. I just can't.
Oh, that's true. I didn't plan.
Vacation,
I didn't plan for this. All right. I won't do it. Brad is shaking his head.
On the fly beard. That seems like a recipe for disaster.
See,
it was not on the fly last time, and you had to like cut pieces off and tape.
I haven't trimmed it yet, so I actually should do that because last time I spent the whole show going like, "Why is that hair? How do you people do this?"
See, Adam and Will are not here to enjoy the treats that I brought back from London. I brought back Jaffa cake and
nice.
from some biscuits from
it's in a fancy tin.
Yeah, right. I'll
definitely it's gonna taste better.
Yeah, we're not gonna eat. Yeah, we'll probably save it for the live build to eat this stuff. But also waiting for Adam and Will to come back here.
Ooh, okay. Let's see what we got here. Oh, they are great. Wait, are they actually great? Like Earl Grey? Biscuit?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
that's a really nice Earl Grey flavor.
Oh my god, I love this.
So Adam and Will, you want to partake in this? Hurry up and come back. Yeah.
I want to partake in that, but I never can.
What's
need to get out to San Francisco more.
Let me check the expiration date, Brad. If it can last until CES, maybe.
Wait. Also, am I a little hot? I feel like I might be a little loud, or am I good?
You're good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah. But yeah, Jaffa cake. I saw plenty of those ads on around London, and I think someone in Discord also recommended it. So I was like, okay, I'll just I went to like a convenience store and just grabbed a Jaffa cake, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
It's so funny because when you said convenience store, the way you said it almost sounded like konbini, and I was like wrong country too. Oh no, wait, no, he said
Japan.
it in English. He said it in English. I'm just wishful thinking. So if you haven't been to Japan, their convenience stores are amazing.
But that tin can one, that one is from Fortnum and Mason, and that is
Sounds
more
fancy.
fancier.
I mean, it's in a metal tin. I'm assuming it is super fancy.
I think it's taped on the side.
Yeah, it is taped on the side. I was like, this is Elena proof. What's going on here? My parents actually knew that as a child, I really didn't like too much hassle. And also, I was really terrible about hiding my tracks. So it was really easy for them to keep me out of packages.
That's funny.
Have you ever tried opening a cookie tin and then just realize it's just a lot of like miscellaneous stuff like sewing materials?
Oh,
or
no,
like
it was very clear. It was very clear in the house, which was this, I guess not even stereotypical, the classic Royal Danish cookie tin, repurposed,
yes.
and which one actually held the cookies.
So you knew.
I mean,
knew where all the goods are.
It's like spatial context. If it's in like the craft room, it's probably not gonna have cookies. If it's in the kitchen, probably has cookies. And now I'm doing that thing where it's like, oh, it's got all this sticky stuff on it, so I'm using the tape itself to try to get it off. So welcome to the ASMR stream
of snacking ASMR.
of taking off gooey tape residue. Anyway, how are the hamsters looking?
Hamster's running. Somehow feels just slightly different. Coming back as yeah.
They're on a different time zone than you.
I know. I'm still a little jet lagged, so making sure the hamsters are running and whatnot. Yeah. So all the friends in the house are here. Louis Law's here. Davina's here. Ten May. Hello. One Will Smith and Kyle Wilde are also here. Where's
is
Adam?
It the Will Smith
The Will
or is
Smith.
it not that Will Smith?
Not that Will Smith. Gentle Stone, hello. All right. Yeah, I think everything's good. Y'all ready for a show?
Yeah.
Y'all ready for a podcast?
I'm just going to make some notes here. Actually, normally to this point, I've winged it during the intro, but this time I'm feeling like I need to actually have notes. So we'll see how many times I flub it. I think there's something about having
Famous
it in
last
note.
words.
Something about having it in note form. I think it makes your brain think, oh, I have to say it this way. So then it actually introduces the whole flub. Whereas if you just wing it, it's actually a little easier because.
I hope not, since I'm going to be referring to notes.
No, I mean for the intro.
No,
for the intro when we,
okay.
we talk about in this episode, it's a little bit of a tradition, right, to flub it, but.
You got this.
At the same time, sometimes when you start flubbing, your brain goes, "Oh no," and it spirals from there.
But if you wing it, you can't flub it because you're just making it up on the fly.
Exactly. See, you understand me. All right. So, okay.
367, just in case.
367. All right. Are we gonna give this a shot?
Guess do it.
Okay. How are we feeling? Yep. All right, here we go.
Born ready.
Do it. Yep.
In this episode of The Full Nerd of crap. See, there we go. See, I predicted it. My brain's like, wait, what does the notepad say? Oh no. Okay. Now I'm gonna mess it up. All right, here we go. In this episode of The Full Nerd. Oh crap. My brain really just goes. Snapdragon. Okay, here we go. And Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme. Okay. All right. In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk about Qualcomm's new Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme crazy benchmark performance, if Windows 10's death is really a big deal, and we answer your questions. Hello and welcome to episode 367 of The Full Nerd. I am your fill-in for your fill-in co-host, Elena, and with me today is co-host Brad Cherkis.
Hello, Internet. For the first time in 6 months, I heard the intro music that time.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I guess the redesign of the studio has ancillary benefits.
A bit, yeah.
Nice. And also we have special guest and Full Nerd regular, Mark Hockman.
Hi guys, how are you?
Yay. Mark is a trooper because he is in the middle of a week plus of business travel. And I think you're coming to us from a remote location right now.
Yeah.
I am coming from, I can say officially that I'm in Phoenix and I'm at an Intel event, and for the rest of it, you kind of have to wait.
Nice. Intrigue.
Yep.
Mystery.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
And as always, we have Willis helping to make sure our verticals and horizontals don't go diagonal.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Yes. Sorry, I'm still a little jet lagged because I just came back from London and all that. Fun fact: if you ever want to learn a lot of British lingos or in a way swear words, go to a football game, go to a soccer game, and you'll learn you'll hear everything about it.
You used international English for a second.
Yeah.
Football.
Football.
I can't believe you called it football, man. We're living.
No. Yeah. So when I'm there, I make sure that I had to say football. Otherwise, people are going to stare at me like, are you American? But now I'm back home soil. Yeah, I can say soccer.
But it's not like your accent wouldn't give you away.
No, yeah, right. No, but so I met with our colleague over at Tech Advisor, Nyron Copeman, and yeah, he was very appreciative for me to say, "Oh, thank goodness that you're here to say football and not soccer." But I'm like, hey, I'm in foreign ground. I should,
when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Exactly.
Right? It's really fascinating to me. So, kind of random linguistic thing. It turns out that phrase exists in other languages, and I think that's fantastic and fascinating that it's so ubiquitous. Maybe I don't know exactly how many European languages it's in, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
Shows you how big Rome was back in the day.
Yeah,
I know, but still, that it's that like common. Because I usually think of idioms as like really specific to language, so it's kind of neat when they like are that similar. Because a lot of times you'll talk to somebody and it'll be like, "Oh yeah, we have something like that." And they'll say something that's like completely different, like literally the words are different, but the meaning is similar. But apparently, this time it's actually very similar wording. So I was like, oh.
Ordering food was also a very interesting experience because we were at a Sri Lankan restaurant, Nyron, my partner Diana and I, and we were ordering, I guess it's an aubergine dish.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was like,
eggplant.
Or it took a second. I was like, wait, what was aubergine again? It's like, yes, it's actually eggplants. So.
But is it like the Italian style, the fat ones, or is it like the skinny ones that we're used to?
I'm not sure, but the dish came out all mush, so, so I couldn't tell what it looked like.
And for anyone listening and wondering what I'm talking about, I didn't know this growing up, that there are different shapes for like widths of eggplant. That when I was growing up, because the Asian style ones are like skinny, like really skinny, and then the Italian ones, I guess, or maybe Europeans, they're just like fat chunky boys.
Yep.
Yeah, very different.
But apparently they taste the same, so I don't know, kind of different. Also, for people watching the show, I've opened the tin. So I've passed one checkpoint, but apparently there's more packaging that I have to get through to get to the cookies here.
That's
biscuits.
Yeah. You can eat this even though Adam and Will's out. We're not going to wait for them.
Well, we can save one package.
We'll save one package
so that it doesn't go stale, but then they can go with another.
It's okay. They got Jeff. Okay. I have something else for Adam that I'm not going to spoil. I'm going to wait for him to come back and we'll review it, reveal it on the next podcast.
Wee. Okay. So everything's
stay tuned.
running.
Stay tuned.
We've talked about food.
So, now we're here to talk about chips.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Different kind
what
of
a great segue.
Exactly.
Thanks, co-host. Fist bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, do you want to tell us about everything you heard last week during Qualcomm's briefer?
Absolutely.
Briefing?
So Qualcomm is one of those companies that I give credit for just for existing. I mean, I think that when it first came out with the Snapdragon 8 series, it kind of signaled the fact that there was going to be 3 competitors in the PC chip market. And when they bought Nuvia, it really kind of raised the flag for that generation. I mean, we had the first generation X1 Elite, we had the Ryzen AI 300 from AMD, we had Lunar Lake from Intel. All 3 were really excellent chips. They had offered everything from AI to battery life to CPU power. So right now we're heading into the next generation, which is it's the Qualcomm Snapdragon X2 Elite, but you also have the Qualcomm Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme on top of it, which is kind of Microsoft level sort of branding. I mean, it just is, it's over the top, but I mean, it goes to show that they're really trying to push performance as the metric for this generation. And that was what they sort of highlighted. In fact, what I consider to be sort of the selling point of the first generation battery life was kind of glossed over. I mean, it was really just touched on like extreme passing. I mean, it was supposedly multi-day battery life, but like I said, they mentioned it twice. I mean, it's just not a focus for them this time around. So what they're shipping is, of course, these impenetrable product names, which I'm not even going to go into because it's just not even a point to it. But we have 3 chips, which are spelled out on the site, but I'll just kind of recap them here. You have from bottom and top, you have the X2 Elite, which has 12 total cores, subdivided into 6 prime cores and 6 performance cores. These are new, by the way. We have prime cores and performance cores, which is kind of similar to what ARMs are doing, but the X1 Elite was all performance cores running in full tilt all the time. And so for these, you got the prime cores are at 4 gigahertz, the performance cores are at 3.4 gigahertz. And so we go up from there to the X2 Elite with 18 total cores. And you've got 12 prime cores, 4 gigahertz sustained, 4.7 gigahertz boost, 6 performance cores, which just run at 3.4 gigahertz across the board. And then you go up to the bad boy, Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme, which is 18 total cores, the 12 prime cores, 4.4 gigahertz, all cores sustained, up to 5 gigahertz boost for a couple of the cores. And then you got the performance cores, which are 3.6 gigahertz sustained, and and then there's no boost attached to those. Now, the interesting thing is that one of the things that kind of threw me for most of the show was that we're going in, we're looking at the chip, they're showing off these little, badges with the chip identification, and you flip the badge over, and then all of a sudden there's on-package memory, and it's just like, what is this lunar again? I mean, what's going on here? And it really was like they didn't make a big deal of it, so it was a little bit confusing because you had to hunt down people to ask them to spell out. But what it boils down to is the Elite Extreme has the option of on-package memory, and in this case they were showing 48 gigabytes, but that's like an arbitrary number. Like they can pick whatever they want, and then they can go off-chip. And the on-chip, I guess, gives you a maximum of 228 gigabytes per second, LPDDR5X. And then with the other 2 chips, it's strictly, run-of-the-mill off-chip, LPDDR5X again, but your memory bandwidth drops down to 152 gigabytes per second. So, you're
That's sizable.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting I want to say, I don't have it written down here, I think it's 96 gigabytes total as addressable memory. So it's a really interesting chip from a performance standpoint. And actually, when we got to take a look at the performance, we can talk a little bit more about them in a second or two. But the performance really just kicked ass. I mean, it was fantastic. Really just superseded everything. And these are last generation chips, obviously, but superseded everything that Ryzen could do, superseded everything that Lunar could do. CPU performance was terrific. Blew it away. And you can look at the site for the graphs and so forth. Some of the things though that were the highlight for the first generation seem to be kind of downplayed. I mean, the tops issue is an interesting one. 80 tops this generation around. It used to be 45, I think. 45 tops. And we're at a standpoint where the AI stuff is kind of. Has it flopped? Well, no, not really, but it's not really the selling point that it once was. You can run an LLM, you can do, some of the Copilot stuff, but again, I think a lot of the steam has, gone out of that engine. That's sort of a real the top level. We can go from there.
Did anybody talk to you about what you could use 80 tops for? Is the idea simply that you can do more of these activities at once? So if you have studio effects on, you can also have recall going and blur on a screen?
Yeah, you can. I mean, they gave us some ideas. I mean, one of the things they really are, considering is just local AI. So local LLMs, LLMs running on a machine. But again, I've always been of the mind that people don't care where their AI comes from. I mean, AI for most people is ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is in the cloud. So if you're running it on the machine, it's going to be a case of getting into what they now, what the new era of AI is agentic AI. And agentic AI is kind of what these companies have been talking about, where you're like, hey, I want to book a trip to Rome. And so the agents go out, they find your hotel reservation, they find your trip reservation, they find a list of things to do, they come up with a timetable. These are all little independent little, ChatGPT chatbots or, LLMs going out and doing their own thing. And so the idea that they're thinking about is that you're going to be working on your laptop. You're going to be like, hey, I got a presentation coming up in 2 hours. Make me a bunch of slides, consolidate the information that we've talked about previously, these kind of things. And And then there's the the sort of the alternate version of that, which is to say that Windows itself is going to have these little agents running inside of it, and it's going to have things that are running besides behind Windows, doing things like semantic search or image processing or something of that sort, and all these things are going to sort of tap into the tops. And it's kind of hard to say what vision of this is going to become a reality, or if any of them are. I mean, I can see a future where AI becomes more practical as opposed to like some big consumer initiative. But at the same time, it's difficult to say how many tops those are going to consume, and to what purpose they're going to be used for. So yeah, so there's a lot of like, hey, it's coming, but it's not quite here.
Yeah. It's interesting because, as you say, the 80 tops roughly doubles what Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm themselves did with the first-gen Copilot. But the parts that really made my eyebrow raise were the CPU benchmarks. Like in Cinebench, admittedly, this is, I believe the top-end Elite Extreme that you were benchmarking.
Yeah, that's it.
It has a ton of cores. It has, everything they got, the embedded memory. But they were doubling up the Cinebench scores of the top-end Ryzen, Intel, and Qualcomm chips that are shipping right now. So that's twice as fast. And the single-thread performance in the difference tests were, not twice as fast, but a significant jump ahead. And it's just like, wow, these are huge jumps. These are huge numbers. Do you think AMD and Intel are going to be able to compete with this?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, again, yeah, you're seeing like single core performance. This is excuse me, gen over gen, single core performance. I mean, Cinebench 2024 was 123 to 160, but this multi-core was 1967 to 869. So some of that, of course, comes with additional cores when you're getting to multi-threaded stuff. But to answer your question, obviously they've got their work cut out for them. I would I should take that back. I think that when the X1 Elite was signaled by the Nuvia buy, it really kind of forced AMD and Intel to have a sit down with the engineers and just say, hey, look, guys, let's just make sure everything's in order, and we want to make sure you were competitive. With when you get into the X2 generation, when you go to the next gen, it's a little bit it's probably a little bit more difficult to say what from a competitive standpoint what to expect. But AMD, the Ryzen honestly was always really at the top of the heap in terms of performance, and I would expect them to be competitive or maybe even better than that. I would if they're going to compete. Intel was always a good all-rounder, so I can't say for certain, obviously, what the performance is going to be. But I would they're going to have to. I mean, the bar has been set. They're going to have to be competitive, and I think they can be. But I mean, the real wild card for me, I mean, the CPU performance is great. And again, if you look at Cinebench 2024, yeah, the fantastic numbers. The GPU is where I'm going to have is where I really want to see what happens. Because we've had the first gen, the X1 Elite was kind of barely a gaming. I mean, we're talking about control at like 1080p low with like 30-ish frames per second, right? So you double that. I mean, you get into like you looked at the scores for 3D Mark, and you get into like Steel Nomad Lite, and again, fantastic scores. I mean, 5600 versus the Core Ultra 7, which was like 3200. I mean, that's great. That's fantastic. But again, you can play games on a Lunar Lake laptop, and you can kind of play games on a Snapdragon laptop. So, that's for me is going to be where for me one of the distinctions between the two.
So,
yeah.
Oh. Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask because, I mean, I think we're talking, so right now we're talking about hardware performance, but, there's still the lingering question for me about software support, right? Because, the thing is that if that is not there, it's equivalent to me of having like something that's a race car, but all you can do is drive down like a side residential street.
Right.
And so what's the point of having that car? And so I was wondering if during your talks with Qualcomm, if they talked a little bit more about that and, on how, I guess maybe, did you get a temperature read on how much support there would be, even just for finding these in the wild when they launch, and if there's going to be excuse me, if there's gonna be like more like software vendor tie-ins and so on and so forth.
Well, they flashed a slide into the presentations, and it was, full of teeny tiny logos, and I honestly had trouble just making out which games they were showing. I would have guessed maybe 110, 120 different logos of games, and the big thing for them that they've touted is that, hey, Fortnite's playable on Snapdragon, which is kind of old news because I'm pretty sure they've talked about their easy cheat support earlier on. And again, I'm not entirely certain how quickly, how fast they may have shown it, but I don't have that down in my notes. What the performance of Fortnite was on a Snapdragon. The thing of it is that you're always going to run into a case. So, all right, back up for a second. Obviously, this is Windows on ARM. Windows on ARM comes with some reputational baggage associated with the software, and that is that things just don't run or they don't run well. I continue to give credit to Qualcomm. I'll give them a lot of credit that they really did a great job of addressing from the launch of the X1 Elite to now software that didn't run on ARM, VPNs, for example, Office, these things. They went out. They found the developers. They have native versions, or they have the versions that at least run. But you're always going to find some weird Office app, some weird corporate app, some old printer driver. Like we all have like 7-year-old printers lying around our house, and some games. I mean, they're never going to solve the game problem. There's always going to be games that just don't run on ARM for some whatever reason. They don't have a native version, and they just don't run well at all. And so. I mean, the question I always try to ask myself is, do you consider game playing to be a fundamental aspect of owning a laptop? And I think for some people, they're going to say, yeah, I do. And for those people, they're going to probably want to traditionally just buy a traditional x86. And other people are going to be like, nah, I got an Xbox, I got a handheld PC. I don't need to play games on a Qualcomm, and this laptop will be perfectly fine because I haven't for 6 months run into any issues with running anything on an ARM machine, and I take it on. I have a Lunar Lake machine here, but I usually have taken Snapdragon on business trips just because of the long battery life. I haven't run into any issues with anything.
Was I?
No, that's fine. I'm just rambling.
So follow-up question, and I know you had a question too, Brad, sorry, but I'm just going to tack this on while I'm here. Did you get a sense for what price point we're going to see these laptops in? Because I feel like that's also part of the equation, right, of like calculating how like valuable this is to you as a consumer, right? Because if it's, going to gaming laptops that cost the same as x86 gaming laptops, then to me, for me, if I was purchasing, I don't know if I would see as much of an advantage to it, right? Versus like if it's like going into laptops that just undercut that pricing, then maybe that brings in the the appeal.
No, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. I mean, so they have always the Elite platform is, well, the Elite Extreme certainly aims at the top of their market, whatever that market might be. Mm-hmm. Surface devices were traditionally, I think, I actually forgotten the price of the Surface Originals laptop, but I want to say $1,500, something like that. And then they over time have put out the cost reduced, performance reduced Plus and X versions. There's a couple things to unpack there as well. Somebody made the point recently that I was talking to that, hey, Intel and AMD come out with new chip revisions every year, and they might be incremental, sort of the TikTok versions, but there's something new every year. Qualcomm doesn't do that. Qualcomm's done it every 2 years. They've used that extra year to sort of present the stripped down version and attack the lower price points. And they really haven't succeeded. I mean, I had a little trouble getting some market information out of people, but I talked to an IDC guy last night, and he was supposed to email me the exact information, but we were talking about 2%. I mean, this is a real small fraction of the market, which is a shame because I think I think they've gotten a tough. They have a lot of lot of baggage. They're the flag bearer for Windows on ARM, and it's been a real tough slog for them. And I don't really think it's deserved. I think they're a better chip than their market share indicates. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, these guys are a very small player. It's like, when we were, I write about Opera, right, or Firefox in the browsers or something of that sort, and they're a tiny fraction compared to Chrome and Edge. So this, that's where they're at right now. So.
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes Qualcomm made the first time around, and they're somewhat continuing it here, is even talking about gaming.
Right.
Because I think that the first gen Snapdragon X Elite chips are great road warrior chips. Carry it around the bus, go to work, come back home, don't have to worry about plugging it in. There's a lot of great things to be said about it. I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the gaming, because as good as the GPU is, over time, we've seen the fact remains that so many games are built for x86. They don't have native ARM versions, and it just kind of stumbles when you're doing that. So it's good that they're accelerating graphics on that chip. I don't know how much of a difference it'll make in the real world, because if your game's being emulated poorly and stuttering and hitching and stuff like that, it's not a great look. Something interesting I was doing the other day, I was looking at the benchmarks that you took with the executive editor of Macworld, Mike Simon, and comparing it to the Apple M4 in the MacBook Air. And it actually trounced the MacBook Air for the numbers they have in Cinebench and Geekbench and something else, and multi-threaded stuff, like trounced it, like we're seeing with Intel and AMD. Apple beat it out slightly in single-threaded, but Mike Simon made a point that I thought was really astute. Like, yeah, well, we want to see how it compares to the M4. It's great that the PC has M4 quality level ARM chips now. I think this is the first time for this.
Right.
But there's no way that Extreme Edition chip is going to be in a $1,300 laptop like the MacBook Air M4, I don't think.
Hard to say. I mean, Qualcomm may have to just, take a hit in terms of, profitability to go ahead and increase its market share. I mean, that's a tried and true too. I should point out that just like the X1, Qualcomm has said that they're going to run everything full tilt, both on battery and on wall power. You look at what Lunar and the Ryzen chip did. They dropped off by, I think it was 20-30%. When on battery power, just to preserve their battery life. Qualcomm's like, going full tilt all out. So that's sort of a hidden feature that's kind of nice in my book. So.
Can you imagine, like, you're on the road, Willis can appreciate this, doing some video editing or something, cranking through something the equivalent of Cinebench, and you can disconnect it from the wall and it'll soar through it twice as fast as modern chips, and you don't have to be near a plug. That's like insane in theory.
I mean, testing these things is a real pain, because you have to you have to do as many benchmarks as you do on wall power, and then you have to do them on battery power just for the mobile side of things. I mean, y'all testing your desktop chips, you don't have to worry about that at all. So
I have a follow-up question about the graphics.
Yep.
So with CPU performance looking this impressive based off of their early testing systems, it really makes you wonder, like, what could this do attached to a discrete GPU in a laptop? Do you have any idea whether or not discrete GPUs can be attached?
That question came up because basically, I think their opinion is their essentially positions seem to be unchanged from the X1. Is that they could connect to a discrete GPU? There's nothing. The official word was there's nothing preventing us from connecting to a discrete GPU, but they haven't. And I think that maybe their idea was that if they just hook up to a discrete GPU, then they lose all their battery life advantages, because you're going to be in this big old fat laptop with lots of cooling and discrete GPU. So maybe they don't want to do that. But yeah, I mean, that was always a question. The thing of it is that they always give us this little, will they, won't they, with the desktop stuff too. I mean, they showed off a couple of prototypes. One was this frisbee looking thing, which I still don't know if it has a circular motherboard. I really wanted to know, and I couldn't. They wouldn't tell me. And then there's this other super thin one. I mean, it looks like a USB DVD drive that plugged into a sort of a slot for an all-in-one monitor. And there's nothing really saying you can't just go ahead and slap some sort of discrete GPU in a desktop. They just seem to not be going that route for whatever reason. So. Yeah,
that little coaster thing looked cool as heck. It had AirJet cool in it, right?
Exactly. It did have AirJet cooling. That's right. Yeah, they were they were open about that, and so was Frore.
I believe that. I wonder
Yes.
if part of the reason they're not in a rush to do that is simply because the game software compatibility issues that we were just talking about. Like maybe give it a generation or two.
I mean, with this uptick in mini PCs, though, it seems to be really something that they could make hay out of, I would think. I mean, it seems to be something they would kind of embrace, but not yet. So we'll have to see.
So,
All right.
Maybe
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say maybe some sort of Taiwan vendor jumps in. So,
So I have a question kind of going back to what I was asking about, performance and, not really having a good outlet for it potentially right now relative to x86 chips and sort of related. One of the things that I brought up in the newsletter when we were discussing the Intel NVIDIA partnership was, the idea of what would it take for AMD to, really make more inroads in laptop, market share because, Intel still dominates quite a lot there. And I was mentioning that I felt like, in some ways Qualcomm is a little more insulated from this because they had sort of picked their lane, at least with the first gen, with battery life, right?
right.
And so I'm kind of wondering, like, what's your take on them, still trying to, I mean, understandably, but angling for performance and not being necessarily pigeonholed as battery life. Do you think that's going to be a good move for them, given how small their market share is? Or do you think it's just kind of a necessary thing they have to do to break perception?
Are you talking about AMD or Qualcomm?
Qualcomm.
Yeah. The thing of it is that they don't have many niches to exploit at this point. I mean, you've got again CPU, GPU, battery life. So I think that one of the things that they really had to establish, probably maybe feeling a little bit sensitive and vulnerable after the 8 series stuff, which really overpromised and underdelivered. I think they really had to show that Nuvia investment was worthwhile and that they had to really kind of kill it in terms of CPU performance. So I think that's what they were leaning towards. And, they always had that benefit because it was an ARM RISC core, RISC architecture, a great battery life on top of that. So, there is really right now, I do think that the AMD and Intel have probably an avenue towards stronger performance, especially in GPU. But, Qualcomm's kind of exploiting what it can do best. And yeah, if it's CPU, they're gonna push CPU as hard as they can. Again, it's really difficult to say how this plays out because there's just so many things that are dragging them back. Which my opinion is that Intel and AMD just have to sell the silicon. Qualcomm has to sell the whole entire ecosystem. And the thing is that it's still the only flag bearer right now. NVIDIA has not come out with an ARM chip. MediaTek has not come out with an ARM chip. It would be probably there would be a lot more legitimacy in Windows on ARM if those two other guys were backing them. And so far they haven't. So.
Yeah, actually, in one of your articles, you talked about, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I was curious, like maybe you can talk a little bit more for our listeners, what you feel are like the bad and ugly. I know we've touched on some of them already, but I'm kind of wondering if you have more that you'd like want to pull out from that.
Well, the thing of it is, and we're all a bunch of cynics, I guess, in the tech space. I mean, there's a lot of people who I was kind of surprised by this. A lot of people who are generally in favor of new technologies. I talked to a lot of people who are very pessimistic about Qualcomm's future. And I think it has to do with the fact that they have a very small market share right now. And again, yes, we're going to go over some of the things we talked about before. The fact that there isn't any sort of ARM ecosystem beyond Qualcomm at this point in time. The big one, of course, is a huge one is just Microsoft and Copilot and the AI programs that it's put into. They actually had a Microsoft executive down there, and it was Stevie Bathish. I'm not sure I'm mispronouncing his name. Really, one of those guys that has like 100 patents to his name. He's a Microsoft technical fellow. The kind of person who's you talk to and he just is that mind. His mind is just at a level beyond. At least mine, anyways. Really, but a really pleasant, nice guy. But anyways, one of the questions we asked him was, "Hey, Recall struggled." So if you had to point to an application that showed off local AI that wasn't recall, what would it be? And he thought about it for a while, and he went to semantic search, and which is, and my reaction was, oof, because we've had good search for so long with Google. I mean, that's basically their, the raison d'etre. So, semantic search on the PC isn't something that necessarily excites people, especially because people kind of learn how to search. And learning how to search on the PC and even on the web, so to speak, in some ways is just you have to identify specifically what you're looking for rather than, the photo with the guy in the red hat or the whatever. So anyways, so yeah, I think that a lot of people are in favor of Qualcomm for various reasons too. Just because they want to see that third player, they want to see Windows and ARM succeed. There's a substantial portion of, I shouldn't say substantial, but there's a portion of the tech market that like fell in love with the Snapdragon or the Surface X platform, where you had this, it was basically one of the first Windows and ARMs. It had, it was an alternative to the x86 infrastructure. And then you have people who are concerned about, software drivers. You're concerned about people with games. I mean, there's a whole. It's difficult to pull out anything specific as far as what's going to make or break Qualcomm, only because, like I said, there's just this tangle of various elements that are on the plus and the minus side, which don't really affect Intel and AMD at all. And I think the one thing that I should say, the one thing I haven't mentioned that it comes to mind right now is the fact that when we first launched the Snapdragon X1 Elite, there was a bunch of OEMs. There was 5 or 6. The same OEMs were right there backing the Copilot Plus PCs. Times were, rosier. Everybody was happy. There's a Windows and ARM future looking ahead. It was HP and Asus, and they showed up via video. And the one player that I was really surprised that wasn't there was Lenovo, because Lenovo has been a backer of Qualcomm for a long, long time. And, coincidentally or not, one of the laptop OEMs had told me that they had sort of signed on to the X1 Elite to use it as sort of negotiating leverage with Intel, because there's only a real handful of SKUs that use the X1 Elite. So,
That's business.
Yeah, that's business. Exactly. Right. So, you look at where they're going to be at with the X2, and some people were just like, hey man, I'm negative on this right now. And I'm hoping that's not the case. I mean, I root for competition. I mean, I think competition benefits everybody, especially consumers, and having 3 players in the market, 3 viable, successful players in the market really makes sense. But again, like you said, it's business, and business is brutal. So
yeah, I'm hoping that this X2 generation does get more pickup than we're seeing initially, because I think that Qualcomm actually does have a chance to potentially have battery life fused with this extremely good performance be a differentiator.
Yep.
Because we know that AMD leans more towards the power side, powerful. They're looking to do, content creator laptops and stuff like that. Yep. Intel's Lunar Lake had great battery life and tops and all that jazz, but it was more of a one-off project, and the Arrow Lake chips don't offer those same advantages.
No, they don't, right?
So, Qualcomm could have something special here if things line up right, I think.
Well, the other thing too, unfortunately, is that the battery life element kind of has been undercut too by just society. I mean, back in a few years ago, you couldn't, finding a power outlet on a plane was not guaranteed. It was pretty uncommon. These days, I mean, you fly, domestic, and there's power outlets, it seems like. There's little battery chargers all over airports and so forth. I mean, the best place for having a long battery life laptop, in my opinion, is something like a trade show, like a Computex, like an IFA, where you're shuttling it from place to place. You don't necessarily have a chance to sit down and power up your battery, so you just need something that's going to last all day. But again, that's a big use case that's been kind of undercut by people demanding more power. So.
So
one of the things that came up in your coverage was, as you mentioned at the start of the show, AI, and there was, I think, one specific laptop. Was it from Huawei?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Humane.
And I'm kind of curious. Do you think that's another area that Qualcomm could really, get entrenched, like really entrench themselves in and make that kind of their niche, right? Because I don't feel like AMD and Intel are necessarily leaning as hard into that as a selling point. And I thought it was very interesting too that particular laptop was selling the idea of, is it agentic? I don't know how to pronounce it, like in this term,
That's right.
agentic AI, as opposed to, a lot of the talk and a lot of what people think about is, LLMs, which is, generative AI. And do you think that's like really a space for this?
So the Humane laptop was an interesting story. So we had no idea this was coming. This was like it was pitched as a conversation between two CEOs on like how AI could benefit everyday life. And so we're like, all of a sudden, when somebody sends my colleagues at Tech Advisor sends me this thing and says, "Hey, this announcement is going to be live in like 45 minutes," and it's this new laptop from Humane, and I had heard of Humane, but I couldn't off the top of my head tell you like who it was or what it did. So I was like, "Oh, new laptop from a company I haven't really heard of. Let's find out what it is." And it was Humane is basically the sort of national AI company of Saudi Arabia. It's backed by their what's it called? Their PIF, I believe it is. Their national investment fund, which incidentally Trump wanted to emulate with our own sort of sovereign investment fund. That hasn't quite happened yet. Anyways, so they pitched it as a laptop that was going to run an agentic operating system called Humane OS 1. And it was going to be basically like, you were going to, instead of like futzing through Windows, you were just going to tell this thing what to do, and it was going to go out and do it. And it was going to be this like really dynamic way of computing different. So, everybody, we all rushed down. I took pictures, and it was like, this thing is running Windows. So I'm like, okay, I don't quite understand what's going on here. So, we sat through the presentation, and Cristiano Amon, the CEO of Qualcomm, talked to Tariq, if I remember her name was correctly, the CEO of Humane.
Tariq Amin, A-M-I-N.
Okay. Yes, okay. Talked about what it was going to be. Then we all went to this press conference, and Tariq it was a very Elon Musk moment. He was a man who, let's put it this way, it was very easy for me to dismiss what he was saying, because within half an hour, he basically acknowledged that this wasn't an operating system. This was just an application running on top of Windows. There were some creative elements, some writing elements, but it sounded a lot like we'd heard before. Contrast that with, this is a guy who has virtually limitless oil money behind him. Sure, it's maybe not here now. Could it be? And I'm just like, you know what? Absolutely. I mean, there's a huge dichotomy between what could be and what was shown there. And I was completely reluctant to lean one way or the other. It didn't look like it was what it could be promised, but I got to imagine with the amount of money and the backing and the talent that he could attract, he could probably pull something off that would look appealing. So I could really see both points of view. But to answer your question, this whole agentic AI thing, again, there's a lot of like, hey, it's coming. There's a lot of like, believe us, we're going to hold the football, come kick it, that type of thing with Charlie Brown. And I am not necessarily as convinced that agentic AI is going to be an issue, but I can really see a future in which these little functions within Windows have little bits and pieces doing little things that are like finding a hole for your schedule, making your doing noise filtering, audio filtering. A lot of these things working in conjunction, all stealing a few tops on the back end. That is a feature that, practical AI. I mean, that's a feature that makes sense to me. So I'm not sure if Humane's going to be leading the charge or anyone's going to be leading the charge. But a lot of these people are up there telling us that agentic AI is the future. Again, I'm not entirely certain I agree with the term agentic AI, but again, more practical AI, yeah, I'm willing to be open-minded about it. I think it could happen. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, when you filed that story, it really cracked me up. I'm like, wait a second, this thing's running Windows. That was
Right?
you made OS. I see the taskbar down there.
And if it wasn't the Saudis backing this, I'd be like, nope, this is just ridiculous. But again, who knows?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, do you have anything else to wrap up? Do you think we're in a good spot?
Let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, the other odd thing that happened at the event, the Qualcomm event, doesn't necessarily involve Qualcomm, but it'll be something to watch. Is that Google's trying to essentially replace Chrome OS with Android. I don't know the timetable for that. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I'm not sure if it's going to actually matter in any meaningful way. But that's one of the things that's been going on behind the scenes, and apparently it's sort of coming out into the limelight. So we're just going to have to wait to see how that all plays out too.
That one I'm very interested in because I believe they announced that intent a while ago, that they were at least merging the two,
Right.
and basically transforming Chrome OS so that it was still basically running as like a branch of Android. So it sounds like this is a firmer commitment to that. And I am wondering how that's going to play out on ARM chips specifically, because so many phones are powered by ARM.
Yeah, don't know. It's something I'm gonna have to take a look at.
I've been covering tech news for long enough to know that, yes, they have recently started teasing this. They're moving towards it, but they've had this initiative 4 or 5 times in the background over the last 10 years to begin with. So I'll believe it when I see it.
That's fair. I also do have some reservations about it because I really like Chrome OS. I think that it took me a while to be sold on it, but I like how lightweight it is. I like how currently you can use it on x86 chips to give laptops longer life. And so I have a little concern that if they merge the two, that's going to go away, that you won't be able to use Chrome OS Flex as a way to breathe life into a system and make it friendly enough to somebody who may not make the jump to Linux as easily on old hardware. So I am keeping an eye on that, but maybe not with as much enthusiasm as maybe other people in the tech space.
Yeah.
Speaking of using things on x86 chips, what's up with Windows 10?
Nice.
Yeah, I brought this topic to the table because this is actually a question that I actually asked all the PCWorld staff in a recent meeting, and I was kind of curious, feel like we should talk about it. I'd love to hear some folks in the chat kind of share their things. So Windows 10 end of life is coming up on October 14th, I think it is. 20.
We should have it memorized by now, Brad.
Yeah, I should. But that kind of speaks to the thing, right? Because when Windows 7 went down, it was all hands on deck. It was huge. We did all kinds of articles. We've done all that kinds of stuff this year already. But with it coming up in focus, it's like, does it really matter? It does matter that Windows 10 is going end of life. But it feels like with all these backdoor ways that Microsoft offers to get an extra year of security updates, does anybody really care about the death of Windows 10 in 2 weeks? What do you guys think?
Mark, you should go first because you're a Windows guy too.
I totally agree with the premise is that it was such an apocalyptic message a year back. It's ending. Thou must move to Windows 11, and there's lots of the stick being applied and so forth, and there was fear and so forth. The apocalypse is nigh, and they've given so many options to go ahead and allow people to sort of dodge the axe. Backing up I think using Windows backup. I'm not a huge fan of Windows backup, so I always turn it off. But I mean, if you want to just back up your settings and so forth, that's just the easiest way of doing it. And then there's the I think what you were looking into, Elena, with the Microsoft rewards.
I have comments.
I'm going to let you go ahead and do those. Or just I mean, there's people that are going to pay, probably pay the $30 or so forth. But yeah, I mean, I've got, we all have relatives, and I think I'm just tell my father, hey, just, flip on Microsoft, the backup, and just save yourself the hassle. And maybe, he's practical, and he was an engineer. Maybe he just wants to just, heck with it and pay Microsoft 30. But I'm just like, heck with it. Just turn on backup, and we'll worry about it another year. I mean, I gave him, I let him, have like an older, Surface tablet, and he's just like so he's actually technically already on Windows 11. He's just doing his own little thing. He just uses his old desktop upstairs as Windows 10. So yeah. Basically, I've, in a nutshell, just not a huge deal that it once was.
Yep. I guess since Brad asked the question, I'll go next. So I'm actually going to post this to PCWorld.com. I've actually been timing how long it takes to do these two different methods, which apparently Europe's going to be exempt from, as someone rightly pointed out in chat, because
Yep.
I guess somebody, was it like they sued Microsoft or some kind of legal, I don't know what the right word for it is. I don't know if it was legal action, but basically said, hey, Microsoft, you can't do this to our people. Just give them the year for free, period.
The gist behind it is because they're claiming it's free, but by using the Microsoft rewards, you have to use that service and pay the Microsoft rewards. And then Windows backup, it can fill up your OneDrive.
Yeah.
So you might
You're
so
right.
that was the gist of the argument.
Yeah. And so it sounds like it's a done deal that they do just get it for an additional year, right? Yeah. So this is not applicable to people outside, I guess, the European Union. This is not applicable to the people in the European Union, but for the rest of us. So I'm actually a little mad about this because I feel like there was some false advertising. So I have an old Windows 8 tablet that I upgraded to 10. It's like an 8-inch tablet. I love this thing. It's definitely on its last legs in terms of it being an Atom processor and not really being able to keep up with the operating system updates. But I'm like, okay, like this thing is probably not going to survive to Windows 11, and I don't think the chip even qualifies. So I need to do this on this account. So I'm like, you know what? This is a great test. I'm going to see how long it takes me to earn 1,000 Microsoft points, because I mean, everyone in the press has covered this and said, oh yeah, you just do this. And I'm like, but does it really take that little effort? I want to find out because I need to do it anyway. And so part of this is that Microsoft claims that if you download the mobile Bing app and you use it 3 days consecutively, or 2 days even consecutively in a row, you get 500 points, which is half of the amount of points you need to buy, quote unquote, this upgrade. Well, I didn't get my 500 points. And I did this for 4 days and I still didn't get it. I haven't checked since, but I didn't get those 500 points. I don't know why I didn't register. I looked it up on different, forums, including Microsoft's official support forums. Other people reported the same, that they just didn't get their points, and it just doesn't happen, I guess, maybe for some accounts, which I think is kind of nonsense. So without the bonus, it took me, I think, 4 days to get the number of points I needed. And it's not a lot of time investment per day. It was like maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And mostly because I was min-maxing as much as I could to get the points. Like if you just do your dailies, that's basically what it's like. You do your dailies, which is, you do like 30 searches on desktop and like 15 on mobile to get, I don't know, a few hundred points. And then you can do like bonus activities during the day, and you'll rack up the 1,000. And I still have to figure out how long it takes to actually redeem this, because I'm still going to count this as like, how long it takes to do this versus, doing the backup method and then listing the pros and cons of each method versus obviously just paying $30, which is going to be the simplest and fastest. But I did this experiment and I'm a little bit irritated, especially because I think with all this friction, I think it is actually still kind of a big deal that Windows is quote unquote dying, because there is going to be a lot of people who aren't going to do this work, right? They're even just setting up Windows backup is friction, right? It's a step that people have to take. Mm-hmm. And then paying $30 is definitely friction, because it requires hard cold cash to actually make that happen. And as best as I understand right now, because I'm going kind of methodically, I haven't gone through the actual redemption stage. I think, because I tried looking on the Microsoft Rewards website, it's not through there. You have to go through, I think, Windows Update and then do it that way, which again is another point of friction because it's not clear cut. Because for me,
it's not even on every computer right now either.
Oh.
So and that's the thing, right? So this rollout is really not good. I think Microsoft is being Microsoft, and it's kind of convoluted, especially because it's a walkback from the original plan. So it is kind of feels a little ad hoc. And so I think that this is still kind of a big deal on a actual detail, granular level because of these friction points. Unless you live in the European Union, then you're fine. But for the rest of us, which is quite a few people, I think there's going to be a lot of tech support calls to probably everybody who's listening to the show, because that's kind of the space that we live in, right? That we are informal, or actually some of you, your job are actual IT, that we're going to be getting these calls saying like, hey, I'm being told that I'm not on Windows 11 and I'm not secure anymore. Like, what am I supposed to do? And then you're going to have to walk them through setting up Windows backup, and also explain that if your OneDrive fills up, that's probably going to give you a bunch of nag messages too, unless you actually pay for the subscription. And I think it's just a headache. I think the European Union did the right move. And I don't understand why Microsoft is being so stubborn about this, frankly. Like,
I think it's actually great that they're even offering us what they
I mean,
are.
I'm not saying it's not a good thing, Brad, but is it really a top to bottom good thing if it's this convoluted?
I mean, yeah, I don't think it's that convoluted. It's just, hey, if they're putting out, they got to pay for this extra year of security updates somehow to all these people. They're like, hey, might as well get some folks using some of our services. Maybe they'll stick.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, it's not, like, again, it's not bad, but I don't know if it's unequivocally good.
So I'm curious. So you weren't able to get Microsoft Rewards working on your Bing mobile app, is that right?
It works, but I didn't get the bonus, right? Because there's nothing that I can specifically say like, hey, I've been here for 2 days. I hit this button to let you know that I do it. It's supposed to be automatically registered, and for whatever reason, the system didn't register that I'd been using the Bing app and did all my searches each day. And honestly, the rewards program is a little buggy. It really is, because every time that there's like the first, and I actually will put this in the notes, the first 3 searches I do per day, it won't register at first. And usually around search number 3 or search number 4, then it says, oh, here's all the points you've accumulated up until this point. So it's like you get 15 points all at once because it's 5 per search. And I find that highly aggravating because I have no reliable way of knowing. Like, you're a seasoned Microsoft Rewards person, so you're like, yeah, this is normal. But as somebody coming into it, as someone who doesn't do it often, it's very aggravating because how am I supposed to know that it registered? And then on top of that, sometimes other searches don't register either. For whatever reason, maybe the keywords are too close, or you're doing it too quickly, so the system won't register it. And so I also had to figure out that the system for this is that you do the search, you wait 3 seconds, or you just kill time by scrolling, because it's like you're basically having to simulate that you went through the search, and then you can do your next search. So it's like trying to gamify this is a little bit irritating.
But the thing is, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. I was just going to say, if you want to gamify it literally, you can rack up Microsoft Rewards points real quick if you have an Xbox and just download
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's, you don't even have, I don't know why they're pushing you to download the mobile app. Well, they're probably trying to pushing you to download the mobile app just so you download the mobile app, but you don't need to download the mobile app to get points for search or anything of that sort.
But if you want to min-max your points, then you obviously have to download the Bing app, because that's another 150 points per day that I was getting. And it was supposed to be another 500 after 2 days.
I would call it customer service.
Yeah, customer service is going to care about my ticket real hard.
I have, what do I have? I have over 100,000 Microsoft Reward points.
Dude.
I think. Well, it's Ultimate, right? That's how I pay for Game Pass Ultimate.
That's amazing. That's dedication. I doing 30 searches. Oh, another tip is that you don't need to actually think of different search terms. Just let Microsoft suggest them to you and just click on those. I tried doing it the hard way the first day, and I was like, okay, what else can I search for? And I was like, no, Microsoft is actually giving you things to search for. Just use that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll actually suggest, hey, do you want to search for flight information? And then you're like, what flight information? And then you go to the search thing, and it actually will suggest a search for like airfares from from near me to
Tahiti or something.
Hawaii.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
anyways,
but yeah, to answer your question, Brad, I do think it's not.
oops.
I would.
Nice chest.
So many HR violations in this call today. There was stuff that we were talking about before before we went live.
I was being a homie. If I started talking, it switches to me on the camera. So.
Oh, I see. But yeah, so to answer your question, the TRDL version is, I think that it is not as big of a deal as when it first was announced, obviously, but I also think it's not a nothing burger. I'm going to just kind of twist English in weird ways here. This is just because it's not as frictionless as it could be. Because they could have, and I understand, as I think Mark pointed out, that there is actual overhead costs to maintaining security updates. But I think the way it's been rolled out is just a little too convoluted, as opposed to just saying like, hey, we're just going to give you another year of this. So, yeah.
Well, putting in a Windows update is just silly, given the fact that they're always pushing up pop-up ads everywhere.
Right?
Just put a pop-up ad. Hey, it's coming. Here's a way to get Windows 10 updates for free. Just turn on Windows backup, or blah blah blah.
And at least have a web page for the Microsoft Rewards page that says like, oh, it's not here. You're gonna have to redeem it here. So at least people can be more easily like routed to it, as opposed to having to like search and be like, where do I do this? Like what's happening with this? Because let me tell you, most people aren't going to do what I did, in the sense of they're not going to figure. Yeah, no, I'm the weird one on the staff. I will do things like this because I just want to know. I'm the same person that benchmarked integrated graphics just so I could have the chart to prove a point. So, yeah, I guess maybe living in Europe right now would be really great.
I think it's I actually, like I said, I think it's really good that Microsoft is giving these free-ish options in addition to the 30. I think it's taken all the urgency out of this, and I'm glad that they did it, because a lot of people are running perfectly good laptops that or PCs because of the hardware inside. It just won't update to Windows 11. So this buys you an extra year with your perfectly good. There's no reason it should be e-waste laptop, which is great. But I worry that it's gonna, when Windows 10 dies, it actually is gonna be like, hey, this is a big problem, because if you're running unpatched Windows 10, you're gonna be in trouble. And I just worry that it'll get the boy who cried wolf next year a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think in fairness, I don't think that's the right word for it, but I think that regardless of when it happened, whether or not they extended it by a year, like the way they're doing, I think it's going to be a problem. I can't use the word I was thinking of on air. It's going to be a problem regardless. And I think Windows 10 will be the new Windows XP. We are going to see it on malfunctioning terminals 10, 15 years from now, possibly.
Oh my.
Unless there is some kind of dramatic incentive or way for businesses to be coaxed off of it.
I saw a crashed Windows 7 screen at the movie theater the other day. It's like, whoo, y'all have had plenty of time to get all of that by now.
Have they? I mean, I still occasionally see Windows XP terminals. It's wild.
Yeah. Wow. Does anybody in chat have anything to say about this?
Oh, yeah. You did a poll, right, Willis?
Yeah. So I did a poll asking folks, what do you plan to do, basically after Windows 10 ends support. So, so far, the leading up to the poll right now at 37%, it's people are willing to update to Windows 11. And then coming to second would be keep using Windows 10 without support. So, yeah. And then the rest would be paying for an extension at 11%, and then switching to Linux at 32%. So,
whoa.
Wow, a lot of people are willing to switch over to Linux.
I'm wondering if
diaries, man, they're getting you.
I know what to say. I was wondering if we just have more people in chat now from the dual boot diary side of the fence on our full nerd network.
Are you still using trying on Linux, Elena?
I haven't really started with it, and know the guys have been encouraging me to do, because they want me to be able to come on the show at some point as, I don't know, the Windows die-hard voice, perhaps, which I think is funny, because I don't know if all the people on the staff, I don't know if I would necessarily call myself a Windows die-hard either.
Yeah.
I mean, WSL is perfectly fine. I mean, just go ahead and use that and just play around with that. That's the way to go. So you don't have to go hardcore real quick. Just use Windows Subsystem for Linux.
You know,
Both worlds.
I'm still creating my my post-it diagram chart. I really want to do that. I think it'd be really funny just to have a picture of a blank wall with a bunch of post-its trying to figure out, all right, so this is a distro. This is the desktop experience. These are your options. This begat this.
The first time that I thought about that after, 20 years ago, after being used to Windows forever, I'm like, what do you mean the kernel, the operating system, and the desktop package are all totally different things and I can customize that? It like blew my mind.
I mean, it's great.
But it's a lot of work.
It's great, but that's the thing, right? So it's the whole, was it paradox of choice? I forgot what the proper term for it is. That if you get to a point where there's too much choice, it just causes paralysis. And and this is a bit of a segue from Brad's original topic, but I would say that I think as enthusiastic and wonderfully enthusiastic as a lot of Linux users are, I don't think they realize that they may have self-selected as people who enjoy the choices, like the plentiful choices, and most of their brains just kind of explode when you have too much choice at first.
Yeah. I actually love that Will and Adam are doing the doable diaries.
Yeah.
I think that's a very fun and fantastic show.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love, like, we're nerds. We co-host the full nerd. I would love to get like my mom and set her up with Ubuntu or something, because I think like the base vanilla Linux experience is actually something, if you someone who knows what they're doing sets it up properly, is that anybody can use these days. So yeah, if you don't want to pay the $30 or use Microsoft Rewards, that's an option. I would just
It's very friendly. Although I think if I put that in my article, it's going to be like amount of time necessary, days, months. Pros, no longer on Windows. Not have to worry about cons. There's a lot of getting acquainted with all of this.
Now for the
no got a point update last night. What does that mean?
Yeah. Now for the 22% currently right now voting for using Windows 10 without support. What daunting PSA, the cautionary tale you guys want to tell these folks? Just
Well, it's always
what's the worst going to
hypothetical,
happen, you know?
right? Yeah. I mean, it's always hypothetical because there's always going to be somebody who stumbles into someplace they're not going to go on the internet, and then gets hacked or malware or something of that sort. I mean, and it's kind of a fun story because my wife used to work for a security company, a computer software security company, and there were people in her company that accidentally landed in malware just because their business practices were locked down, but they didn't give the same care to their personal machines that they did their business machines. And there was one example where a coworker had clicked on something they shouldn't have and ended up with a laptop full of malware, which I had to assist actually trying to get rid of. So I mean, but again, it's just there's really nothing. It's not like a situation where if you jump into there's no real world analogy. It's not like at a certain it's not like they shock you. There's like they're not a high voltage shock goes through your laptop when Windows 10 support expires. It's just the fact that you're risking things, and if you're still playing it safe, you're probably gonna be able to you'll probably be fairly safe to begin with. But there's always that risk, right? And so if you have that risk, you really can't say you will absolutely be safe. You may be safe. And it's it's one of those things where you can't officially advocate for people to stay on Windows 10 and risk that, because that's not really responsible.
Well, it's also because we don't know people's use cases, right? So
That's exactly
if
it.
someone came to me and said, "Hey, I don't want to upgrade my kind of ancient gaming PC, but all I ever use it is for gaming. I never log into anything else other than, Steam and Epic, and those are locked down with two-factor, and I'm feeling pretty confident about this. I would still tell them, like, hey, I don't necessarily know if this is the best call for you, but yeah, that's going to be a little bit less risky, or at least partially less risky than someone who says, yeah, I still do everything on this machine. I log into my bank account, I am like checking my kids, medical records, and all this other kind of stuff. Then in that case, I would definitely encourage them, like, hey, like, no, you should really get onto a system that's going to have regular security updates.
See, I think I'm a gaming PC of like, dodgy mods, people trying to pirate stuff and so forth.
Sure.
Yeah,
but again, it's like it's like limited scope, right, in terms of like what it can touch in your daily life. But even again, right, are you a person that uses the same username and similar passwords across all of your accounts? So even if that's the case and you are using this only on a gaming PC, Windows 10, you're still going to be more at risk than somebody who has unique user IDs, unique strong passwords, two-factor authentication for your accounts, who's doing the same thing. So again, you're absolutely right, Mark. This is my long way of just, plus oneing you, where it's like, yeah, it's so the use cases and the risk, level is so varied depending on the PC, not even just the person, but the PC in addition to the person, that it's just easier to just say like, hey, just do the safe thing, right? Like, yeah. you can go without driving you can go driving without a seatbelt, but it's still probably not a good idea, because even at 5 miles per hour, who knows how you're actually going to get hit and who's going to hit you at what speed.
You actually can up here in New Hampshire. Live free or die, baby.
I mean, very literally, yes.
Incidentally, just kind of brief aside, as we're driving into the hotel, there's a sign for Pumpkin Patch and Gun Show. This is Arizona.
Are you shooting the pumpkins?
All right.
I know.
Are you using them like as like clay pigeons?
I was wondering myself. I mean, there's lots of possibilities, right? Yeah, you're shooting pumpkins, or maybe the adults go to the gun show and the kids go to the pumpkin patch. I don't know. I was just like, wow, this is a mystery I want to explore.
Yeah.
You're holding a rifle, pull, and just throw a pumpkin right up in the air.
Yep. I agree that if you're going to use a Windows 10 machine for a straight gaming box, like if you never open your browser, you just buy things on Steam that you've seen on your phone and play it on Steam, I'd be comfortable with that once Windows 10 was dead. But even as a reasonably savvy guy who does understand all this stuff about Linux, I know how ad blockers work and can reduce risk. I know to keep my security up, I can make a pie hole. I can do all of those things. I still would never, ever do it. I would upgrade to Windows 11. I would not run a unsecured operating system if I planned on checking email or opening the browser on it.
Because here's the other... Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump on real quick, because here's the other thing, right? The one thing we haven't talked about yet is what I feel like I'm seeing a rise in, just from my beat on the site, is legitimate software, including games, being used as vehicles to push malware because the developer's account gets hacked, or they abandon it, or they're even actually specifically bought out. Like they are offered enough money by like ransomware or whoever type attackers to sell their developer account and access to, which is super unethical, obviously. But like that's a vehicle for it too. So you can't always be guaranteed that like, hey, I only ever download legitimate software. I only ever browser extensions that I've been told about. Yes, like that still holds as a good guideline, but it's not a guarantee that you will never get exposed to something nasty. So like, to basically plus one Brad, just having the security updates is just a good safe practice.
Mm-hmm. And all this is part of the reason I'm glad that even though there's some friction, Microsoft did extend these for a year.
For sure.
Thank you to everyone who voted in that poll, because I was really curious about this, like so much so that I asked the PCWorld staff, and I'm like, hey, we should ask the PCWorld watchers too. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I think outside of my mom asking me about it, because I've been kind of slow to update her computer. I haven't really heard a lot from other people in my life, which I think is also a sign of how kind of relaxed the attitude is towards it.
Yeah. On the flip side, my mom went out and bought a new PC, so the advertising worked on her.
Hey,
nice. And when you do, click on one of our shopping links.
Oh, speaking of, you might not see me or Brad here next week because we are going to be busy with Prime Day stuff. So Yeah,
Yeah,
might
another
just
Prime
be
game.
might be Will is chasing after Adam and Will going through their floor candy
Oh, geez.
collection from this trip they're on. But on that note, I think we're good with the Windows topic, and we can talk about what you all, our loyal listeners, want to talk about in the form of questions. So we have, as always, we have our Discord server where we have a dedicated channel for questions for the show. And I think we have plenty already in there from our regulars. You can also drop a question in the YouTube chat as well. But honestly, our server is full of really cool people, so we'd love to have more of you join us there. On that note, I need to actually bring up my list here. I don't know, Willis, did you already pull a couple?
I pulled a few. Let me double check here. Let's see here.
I still need to get IT to put Discord on my work laptop.
Oh, that's another
You
thing.
can always just use the browser.
Yes.
Exactly.
Let's see. Friend of the show, Sneaky, asked, "Do you think the best of AM4 can keep up with two more generations of graphic cards after 2025?" Since AM4 has been holding out for so long, what do you guys think?
I think you would, obviously, as graphics cards get newer and the CPUs and motherboards you're pairing it with get older, there will be more CPU overhead. But I think it largely depends on how much money you're spending on your stuff to begin with. If you take a 6090 when that comes out in a year or two or whatever next year, and try to attach that to an old 7600, not even 5600 or 5800X, it'll still do all right, but it's definitely going to be holding it back. But if you take that same 5800X 3D and pair it with the 6060, like, you'll be losing a lot less because things are evened out. So if you play on the top end, I would be worried about holding that, AM4 system for 2 or 3 more generations. But if you're more of an affordable budget buyer, I think it's totally reasonable. Just keep playing the stuff that you play until something holds you back. That's when you invest in a better CPU.
Great.
It was said. Yep.
For some reason, Willis, I'm having trouble getting into Discord.
Oh.
So maybe do you have another one?
Yes.
Those IT folks, man, I'm telling you.
Oh boy. Let's see here. Friend of the show, also on Discord. Let's see. 59 Smoke asks, "Do you think AMD, Nvidia, and Intel could push the PC gaming market down to mostly APU systems like handhelds, mini PCs, and laptops for a majority of people?"
Well, that was the question people started asking once this NVIDIA and Intel deal started coming out. You stick NVLink, inside or outside of a integrated GPU or integrated CPU, GPU. What does that mean for discrete systems? I think we're always, I think for me, it's a great question to ask, but I think that we're always going to see that divide between, integrated, systems and discrete. For right now, it just means that the further you go on down the road, the wider the broader the market for integrated graphics and gaming on integrated graphics gets. Just simply because of the breadth of games and the long tail of existing games that will play on those systems. But I don't see anything in the current market that's going to shift that dynamic one way or the other. Everything that I've heard regarding the NVIDIA Intel partnership seems to think, and this is years out, so it's really difficult to say at this point in time, that it's going to be sort of a premium SKU on top of the existing lineup, and how thin that SKU is going to be, I'm not sure. But for right now, again, I'm not seeing anything that's changing the game for me right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see the lowest tiers of GPUs go away in time, because integrated graphics are getting that much better.
True.
AMD's been doing great. Lunar Lake actually did really great with it. Qualcomm, in the games that it could run, did a decent job, and it looks like their GPUs significantly improved this time around. I could see a future where there's no more sub-$1,000 laptops with discrete GPUs, and those are handled by systems with big, embedded memory real close, all this stuff on the same die, make it as fast as possible, get it all on the same little chip.
That's crazy.
I could see that happening. I'm not saying I hope it happens, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because I remember having this conversation with Gordon like 10 years ago when we started seeing Intergraphics get to the point where, I mean, it wasn't great, but you could at least benchmark for that. You could benchmark a game on integrated graphics and get somewhere in the high 20s to low 30s, which at the time was incredible, movement in that space. But I had talked to him about it and I said to him, hey, this is really exciting. Do you think that we'll see a point where integrated graphics would, be able to take over for the low end? And he always said to me, at least back then, and through like a large portion of me knowing him, was that he didn't think so, because if you really thought of, he was like, the thing is that if you have discrete graphics, it's always going to do better. So in some ways, to me, this is kind of a fascinating shift, because in some ways it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a product, if it goes this way, of like what's happening in, with, the processes, the silicon and all that. It's more almost like a financial call, right? That's what's influencing it, not because the technology itself has actually superseded like what can be done in that end. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, the thing that changes it is fake frames, right? I mean, if you can go ahead
the dirty phrase.
and if you can go ahead and effectively interject, AI frames into the equation without needing that discrete graphics. I mean, we don't integrate. I mean, gaming, of course, doesn't need 300 frames per second. I mean, if you get it to 90 or so or something of that sort, that's the cutting out point. And that feature is probably not that far away where you can go ahead and do that. So I guess I have to walk back what I just said in that standpoint, because AI maybe does that, maybe changes the game. But, again, there are people who just don't like the fake frames. It changes the way the game looks and feels and plays a little bit. So, it is an option, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I think when I say I could see it happening in the future, I think it largely depends actually on monitor technology, because we've been stuck on 1080p for so long. Like, a lot of the industry is starting to move to 1440p, but 1080p is still very much the expected baseline in laptops and desktops. And things like the 4050, 5050, those entry level GPUs are made to play at 1080p low to medium to high, which is what we're already starting to see out of these integrated graphic solutions. So that's part of the reason I think that. Give it another generation if everyone's still running a 1080p 60 laptop.
All right.
So on the note with gaming here, in the chat just now, friend of the show, PS1 Freak asks, will software and games get less optimized for Windows 10 after it dies next month? In 2 weeks, really, yeah.
I don't think it would like bit rot. Whatever you have is going to keep going. I think a lot of like popular software will still be supporting Windows 10 in some way, especially if you access it via a browser. I would not be concerned about app compatibility in the short term, the next 6 months or so. Things like browsers and stuff might eventually get switched off. Some of your, more niche apps, if you use them, might get switched off sooner than that. But I would switch to Windows 11 or something else, man. Like, if you're that concerned about it, just bite the bullet. It's not that bad.
I would say that all that is true, obviously. I also think that it's not necessarily as urgent as you might think, if Windows 7 and 8 support are any indication, because I just received, I think last week, maybe a week and a half ago, a message from Dropbox saying like, hey, we're finally going to drop Windows 7 support. I was like, what? So, I mean, depending on how specialized your app is, then maybe you'd see it drop off quicker, because obviously they're just going to have, less support, less people available to keep up support for older operating systems. But I think for the bigger apps, like obviously Dropbox, I think they know that if they want to keep people paying a subscription, they actually have to keep supporting these older operating systems, because otherwise they'll lose that revenue. So yes, update as soon as possible, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be like, oh, they changed. Like, let's say next year is the year that they finally do just pull the plug on Windows 10 completely. I don't think it'll all fall, the House of Cards will not all fall at once.
Yeah, I agree.
And Windows 10 still shares a lot of code with Windows 11, right? So it's not like they're necessarily, like Windows 11 definitely has improvements and some things that it does that Windows 10 doesn't, but I don't necessarily think they have forked that much that it would be such a difference to maintain.
Yeah.
I have something.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a question, Brad?
No, I'm saying these have been good questions so far. That's all I was saying. I forgive you guys a second to read. Figure out Shannon.
Yeah.
What you got, Elena?
So I'm just going to make this I'm not going to say that it's going to happen every time, Sneaky Industries, but today is going to be a question and answer session brought to us by you. So there's another one of your questions. Thank you for this. Asked yesterday, are companies delaying launch? A lot of stuff featured in Computex have only been trickling out now. And a follow-up question, what's your most anticipated product that's still not released yet?
Ooh, I will talk about delaying launches. This does feel like there has been bigger delays in technology generations recently. It's been a pretty slow year for computer hardware in general, aside from the deluge of graphics cards launches at the beginning of the year. But that was because they were already delayed. I think economic uncertainty, policy uncertainty plays a lot into that. And that's honestly like 95% of the answer. The other 5% might be, I think that the big chip companies and a lot of their support industries are prioritizing data center at this point. So, we get the leftovers, unfortunately. And between the tariffs and the leftovers, it's just taking a while to get stuff.
Yeah.
And I will have to look up my best of CES, and I'll get back to you with an answer in a moment about which one I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, it's also, I think, probably it's a bit chicken or egg, in that those two factors also have caused some price increases, right? It's like we're seeing SSDs go up, memory has gone up also for other reasons. So I think that also just depresses demand. So then my guess is that companies aren't going to have as much incentive to like push things through the channel, because they know that people aren't just going to be buying them immediately either. So I think it's like all kind of influences each other. It's one big cycle. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the only thing I would add to that is the fact that when we're talking about tariffs, it's not just the actual financial cost of tariffs. Just from companies I've talked to too, they're trying to reorganize their supply chains to try to minimize their cost and lower their price so they maintain competitiveness in the market. And that can require, if not actually building factories or trying to buy space in a factory, then trying to, negotiate with suppliers and so forth. And all of that takes time. And the problem is with all the uncertainty and the back and forth with tariffs and so forth, and the bouncing around that tariffs have taken from country to country. I mean, it's just a lot of back and forth, and all of that just puts delay into the process.
Yeah.
So, but the data center point was also a good one too.
And to add to your point, Mark, when I've talked to different companies about this, one of the things that I heard repeatedly was that it wasn't just the tariffs that were the problem. Like, more so the problem was the unpredictability, because they couldn't necessarily predict like what was going to happen to their P&Ls, right? So like if they can't adequately and be comfortable in those projections, it makes it a lot harder for them to decide when they're going to launch a product and if they're even going to bring it to market. So again, like there's just a lot of different factors coming together to complicate things and just kind of end up slowing, I think, what's going to come down the pipeline. For me, it's not something that was announced this year, but what I'm waiting on for still is my analog 3D.
No.
I actually just looked through our best of CES and best of Computex, and 95% of that stuff is launched, which is great. I'm actually shocked by that. So I think for me, the answer is I'm really intrigued to see AMD's FSR Redstone. I would like to see that come out, even though it's software, not hardware. If you're talking about hardware, I'm really interested to see the battle between the office and the living room. I'm really intrigued to see how the Asus ROG Xbox Ally, or whatever it's called, when that comes out, how it handles. And I'm really curious to hear more, hopefully, about potential for Steam living room set-top box things, which is totally a rumor, but I find all those things interconnected and fascinating.
I don't have any products that I can think of that were delayed, but it did bring up a point that I forgot to mention earlier, which is that the Qualcomm laptops are expected in the first half of 2026, and normally that's the first quarter, right? So the first half, yeah, that's a big window.
Wow,
so
the ones they just announced?
with the chips they just announced, yeah, the laptops based upon that are expected first half, which is I don't know why, but
very early tease.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. For audio listeners, my eyes actually just like got really wide realizing that.
I guess I did the first thing with the same thing with the first gen Snapdragon chips, because they'd had the Hawaii Day or whatever. Their Snapdragon Summit was in November, I think, October 23.
Yeah, a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it didn't launch until May or June with Copilots. I thought it was a Copilot issue, but maybe this is just how Qualcomm markets their stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's a good point. Yeah, it is a little bit later than I expected, though, especially with October, or essentially October, launch.
Gosh,
I thought of a product that I'm waiting to see actually happen.
Oh,
desktop processors with NPUs in them. For all this big push, man, how are you excluding desktops? I don't necessarily want it, but I just think it's ridiculous that we don't really have any.
Why? That's a hard one, Brad, where it's like you want to manifest the future because you want to see it, but it also could be a very terrible future.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say to that is that Windows ML, that's one of the promises of Windows ML, is that it sort of allocates the resources to the appropriate logic. So if you look at from that standpoint, if you've got a desktop potentially with a GPU attached to it, then maybe you don't need an NPU necessarily. Yeah, there's power issues and so forth, but I don't know if that's a great response to that, but that's a potential response, I suppose. So
fair.
Yeah, I would love to see more of what Mark you called practical AI application.
Yeah, so would I.
So that it would create the demand for this, right? Because right now it's like we've talked about on the show before, where in some ways, because of how AI has been marketed to us as consumers, it feels a bit like a solution in search of a problem, as opposed to like here, you absolutely want this because Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator can actually take this piece of art and fill in this section exactly in the way that you meant when you tried to describe it in the prompt. Then yeah, like absolutely I would want that. Or Microsoft is actually using this to very effectively, monitor your use patterns and change your battery power settings accordingly for you automatically, so that, when you're doing this thing that doesn't really require that much power, it just drops it so that it's like sipping at it, versus when, you need that power, it'll boost it for you, right? That means, to me, that is much more appealing than the whole like, hey, we're going to look at everything you do and then store it on your computer, and there'll be never a problem with it ever.
The only problem that I see with this whole agentic AI, or practical AI, as I call it, is that if it becomes viable, then it kind of, again, it fragments the base again. I mean, you've got already the Windows 10 versus Windows 11. If you're now introducing a world where AI functions are part and parcel of the operating system and part and parcel of your computing experience, that's great for those who have them, but what happens for people who don't? Does that mean they're cut off from those functions? Is that used as an incentive to upgrade, or is there some other means of implementing them, whereas it would, like, I don't know, steal some of your CPU cycles? I mean, again, I don't know if Windows ML is this magic button that I'm sort of suggesting it might be, but if they're basically taking some of those resources away from your CPU, how do users see that? So I'm not entirely. The future is still murky. From that regard.
I would really hate to see a future where it is like the haves and have-nots, but I don't think we're remotely anywhere near that as a potential problem yet. So I guess that's good.
Yeah.
More questions. We'll have a couple more, and then we'll get out of here for lunch on the West Coast.
Hey.
A friend of the show, the Funk Mananana. I think we haven't asked this one yet, Willis. What are your guesses on the odds that Intel was required to kill their discrete graphics research and development department as part of the deal for them getting invested in by NVIDIA. I'm going to hit up my bookie. Just kidding.
Well, yeah. The statement from Intel continues to be that we have not killed off ARC or any of the IP associated with that, whether it be discrete or integrated. So I will take that at somewhat face value right now. I mean, again, we're talking about something that's going to be implemented. Everything that I've heard is years down the line. So I mean, we're just, at this point, the roadmap continues. I was not alone in thinking that ARC would be under the chopping block as well, and it might be. But again, it's kind of really hard to say. It's been a topic that's been discussed a lot in the past couple of days amongst people holding cocktails. And without any consensus. And there was actually a fairly vehement argument last night about people who were wondering, hey, who got the better of the deal? Did Jensen get the better of the deal, or did Lip-Bu and Intel? But yeah, I mean, you can argue, you can play conspiracy theorist if you want, and that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. But for right now, the status quo is that nothing has changed. And that's all I can report.
There you go. We talked about it quite a bit on the last episode, so I'm not going to rehash all my steps. But in regards to this question, I wouldn't be surprised if Intel, de-invests, reduces investment in ARC going forward if this winds up being a hit, just because they seem like an extreme cost-cutting mode. But that being said, like, having a GPU in-house is the way that you keep those pixels firing up on laptops if the NVIDIA deal falls through. It's the way you can still compete in those data centers against NVIDIA 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line if it goes sour. So I would not necessarily be surprised if Intel does make a decision to go in deeper with NVIDIA if it turns out well and kind of backseat its own graphics development. I think that if there was a secret part of this deal that forbade them from investing into graphics, they would have charged a lot more than $5 billion because that's given up a major chess piece.
All right. Do you have one?
I do. Let's see here. It's just coming right out of Discord here. A friend of the show, Zos, asked,
you got it.
Do you think we will see aggressive use of malware right when the support ends for Windows 10, or will we see like really nasty stuff wait around 2026 or 2027? I will take this one first. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if it's necessarily going to be aggressive, like on October 15th, it's going to suddenly explode with, a bunch of malware and problems. I do think, though, that where in previous years we would see it kind of trickle out over the course of, months and years of exploiting older hardware, we will more likely see it happen much quicker. So, it's possible that even as, early 2026. And part of that has to do with the fact that AI is helping with the explosion of malware. And that's why we are seeing more attacks, different vectors for attack as well. Like, as I mentioned earlier in the show, that we are seeing that we didn't really see before, legitimate software being taken over by bad actors. So I think that with this tool aiding bad actors and helping them find different ways to exploit and send out campaigns to try to snag people in this trickery, that it is more likely we will see the exploitation happen faster. So I don't think any of us can predict the future. I would love it if we could. Like, please tell me the lottery numbers. But I think that's where the trend is. And so that's why I think another reason why we keep talking about the, death of Windows 10, even though it's not, it's more like a hospice at this point, if we're going to use an analogy. And related to this question, I don't know if you two want to chime in first, actually, before I bring up the kind of ancillary question that.
No, you're the expert on this. So
matched exactly everything I thought. I think it's like what we were talking about last week with Win Ring Zero. The things popping up. Now that it's out in the open and it's vulnerable, all those AI deviants who are using AI to make this kind of stuff, it's just gonna pump out so much bad stuff. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, and small shameless self-plug here. If you want to kind of read about this, when I was at RSAC conference earlier this year, there was a demo of what they call quote evil AI, and it's basically a generative AI chatbot, but it's specifically designed to help attackers, find exploits, create malware, and that kind of stuff. And it was quite fascinating, actually. So you can read my report on that on PCWorld.com. And I think, honestly, that was like almost 6 months ago at this point, because that happened in like late April. It's probably, and they were even saying like from late 2024 to when they were doing that presentation, it iterated a lot. So by now it's probably even more at this point. And when I go to RSAC again, conference again next year, it's going to be even further down the road from this point here. So yeah. Kind of a cheeky question from friend of the show, Ivan R, asked, so does this mean, based on the question, the topic of, vulnerabilities in Windows 10 and all that, does this mean that Windows 11 can't get any viruses?
No.
Of course not. No.
So I think the point to this question is just basically like, he's being a bit cheeky, or they're being a bit cheeky about it, but it's like, do you want to leave all your windows broken and open in your house? Or do you want to at least make sure those are, patched, repaired, closed, and locked at night, even though someone could foreseeably kick in your front door, right? So yes, Windows 11 is not invulnerable, but moving to it means that your quote unquote house is a little more secure.
That was a fine analogy. I like that one.
Yeah, it was an analogy.
I apparently, I think that my natural, if I were Pokemon, like my natural evolution pattern is just to become that species on Star Trek that only ever speaks in like analogies, which is not great for people who don't know my references. But this is how I think. Where I actually am working on this in my personal life. Where I'm like, I have to go back and still be able to explain things like directly to people. But if you ask me more often, I'll be like, so it's like when you march down a street and you're doing this and doing that, and people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, well, how about this analogy? They're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I have to just explain this to you.
That's funny.
All right, so a couple of quick fun questions, or do you have another one before we get out of here?
Yeah, I have one more, but that's actually directed towards me. I'll say
that's the last one I'm gonna have for you. Yeah,
one more.
Yeah, I have one more before that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. All right, so this one's from friend of the show, Liquid R. Hot take question: what is a game, software, gadget, component, or other tech that your professional and or personal peers despise but you love?
Huh.
For audio listeners, everyone just kind of did lean back in thinking.
Jeez.
It's
I have
funny.
to give this some thought.
It's funny because I think I could name this for other people, but I don't think I could think of mine off the top of my head. And I would say it might be fair game for us to name each other's instead of us trying to think of it for ourselves.
Hit me. If you're gonna guess, I'm down.
Oh, well,
this is racking my brain. That's a big question. If I could prepare, I'd have an answer.
Mark's so easy because it's topical.
I'm easy.
Yeah, because I would say based on everything we talked about today, I think you have been the champion of ARM that a lot of other people have not been. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying necessarily everyone despises it, but I think even to your point earlier when you were at this, press briefing, there's a lot of skepticism around it, right? A lot of cynicism, and so that puts you kind of in opposition to the crowd.
That's true. I mean, I was a skeptic for a long, long time. I mean, the 8 series, the Snapdragon 8 series was crap. I mean, I just was like, I didn't even want to cover them because it just seemed like they would promise one thing and deliver another. And then the X Elite came out, and I was really skeptical of it too. But having used it, which obviously most people haven't, and no discredit to them, they just haven't had access to the laptop. I've found it's certainly worthwhile. So I don't really want to be a champion of it necessarily, but at the same time, I think it doesn't get a fair shake. So that's where I'm at.
That's fair. I actually thought of one for myself.
Oh, okay.
High refresh rate monitors, like ultra high refresh rate monitors. Like I wish I had a 500 plus hertz refresh rate monitor.
People despise those? Really? I thought people
Even
were
here
psyched
among
for them.
staff, if you go on forums, there's so many people say, why would you ever need something faster than 180 hertz? Which is true for most people in a lot of games. Why would you ever need faster than 240? Which is absolutely true for anybody who is sane. But I'm not sane. I've been playing competitive shooter games since I was 8.
Whoa.
And I can absolutely feel the difference that a high refresh monitor makes. I've actually done a lot of work going into it, talking with folks from like NVIDIA, the G-Sync stuff, to kind of figure out like the psychology and optics behind it. Why do I feel it and other people don't? And it turns out you have to at least double the refresh rate you're going from to, and then you can feel it. So me, I grew up, playing with 60 hertz monitors. Got a little bit of money, got 120 hertz, these 240 hertz. I had a 360 hertz monitor at one point. Felt amazing coming from 180. I've not bought a 500 hertz monitor yet because going from 360 to 500 isn't doubling, so I'm worried I wouldn't feel it. But if you're going from a 240 hertz, I would absolutely buy a 500 hertz monitor, and 99% of people who I talk to think that's just nutty as hell.
Interesting.
But I'm a big champion of that. If you're,
I had no
into
idea.
that seriously.
I thought people would be super stoked for it, so that I learned something today.
No, for a lot of people, it's a waste of money. Like if you're not,
that's
like,
fair. That's
using it
fair.
forever.
Okay. I honestly don't know if this question is meant for modern stuff or like past stuff, because as you both were talking, I actually ended up thinking of like 3 different things for myself.
All right.
So I guess I can name them all. I don't know. I'll start with the vintage one. Firewire.
Oh.
Brad's face. We about to put up our dukes here.
Wow.
I actually think that it was a really solid method for file transfers, speedy file transfers at the time. I just feel like on the PC side, it never really got its fair shake. And I just don't understand why people just hated on it so much. I still have a FireWire external hard drive that I can't plug it into anything so I have to like harvest the drive now at this point. But I'm still very fond. I have very fond like feelings towards it.
It sounded amazing, but you just could never find anything to plug it into or anything to plug into the port.
I have a motherboard.
Can't spell nostalgia without I/O.
That was an excellent dad pun. That was really good. But yeah, so that's one of them. Probably much more controversial, and I really hope people don't hit the unsubscribe button when I say this. I prefer rubber dome.
Wait, what was that again?
Switch. Oh, Brad's face. Brad's face.
No. Okay, I'm glad for you, but no.
Okay, so I do have to qualify this, and I'll explain why. I think for most people who type on quote unquote normal keyboards, mechanical keyboards are just that much more superior. And I would agree with that. I would agree that if you have a standard like non-ergonomic keyboard, it makes sense for like mechanical keyboards are just a vastly superior experience. I am struggling a bit because right now I'm actually testing an ergonomic keyboard that has it's a mechanical keyboard. And in theory, I should love this thing. And I love the sound of it. I love the tactile feel of it. But it is destroying my accuracy with typing. And I don't like it. It is very frustrating. I have decades literally at this point on my Gold Touch keyboard. Not this particular one, but this series. And they actually have calibrated their rubber dome switches in a way that actually makes for very efficient, very comfortable typing. And I'm trying to work through this. But I've already reviewed another ergonomic keyboard that I did have accuracy issues with typing. That was a little bit frustrating because so for audio listeners, I have a split keyboard design and I also tent it. So like my hand positioning is going to be a little bit different for that. And so what I find is that apparently I'm a very sloppy typer, so that because my fingers aren't super precise in their movements and I'm crossing at angles that I think aren't really the same as when you're on like a flat surface, I get a lot of accuracy errors now when I'm typing because the switches are more sensitive, right? And so I don't like it. It slows me down. I get very irritable. And so I am coming out with this it's a hot take, but it is a qualified hot take. Let's put it that way.
Now that's funny. It totally makes sense, but the TLDR I heard is you got used to something worse. You're used to bad stuff. That's what I'm taking away from that. No, I'm just kidding.
No. And actually, I did have a third one, but apparently I'm so hungry for lunch, I forgot it. And maybe I don't need to destroy people's opinions of me further. I think two is
you've
enough.
done enough today.
I've done enough damage. So, on that note, we will have the final question of the day. And this one is specifically for Willis. And it comes to you from friend of the show, Boria Zero, on Discord. And it is, question to Willis. Have you tried the Jaffa Cake McFlurry in the UK?
Oh, dear God.
Yeah. Wait, so sadly, I did not have the McFlurry. I saw plenty of ads while I was in London. I saw plenty of advertisement. I even saw McDonald's in downtown. And I was curious. I took a peek just to see what the menu is. It was meh. A little boring. But yeah, I was like, I do want to try. So Boria Zero, if you're still in the chat, can you tell me, would it be the same if, now I take the McFlurry from Elena's table and then just grind it up and get a McFlurry out of McDonald's near us? Would it be the same?
Would you mix it in, or would you like just sprinkle it like the crumbs on top? I don't know actually what this is consisted of. I
actually haven't tried it yet either.
I guess,
but yeah.
I mean, we could try both
we'll
for
try
you.
It later, yeah.
Like we can make a scientific experiment on the show where we buy McFlurry and then we portion it out, and then we try like a version where we mix the Jaffa Cake in there, and we try a version where you sprinkle it on top.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's another version where you actually like blend it all together.
This should be one of those episode when we travel. Take the full nerd on the road, go to London and try that out.
Amazing.
Right.
I do think though that if you want not boring, I think it's funny that you called you called their McDonald options boring there.
It's about the same. It's not.
That's fair.
Not anything different.
I think you got to
it's
go
not like Taiwan,
I know you have to go to some other country, probably Asian, to get like. I think one time I saw a Subway sandwich which was like shrimp and avocado and I think maybe even hot sauce all mixed together, and I tried in a Subway sandwich, and I was just like, this is definitely for a different palate than I'm used to.
Right.
Thinking
I'd try that.
I would not.
Not for science.
But yeah, no, we'll try the Jaffa Cake when Adam and Will comes back, or we'll try it on the live build.
When we have
a live.
So we're figuring out the live build. We think it might be Friday. We're figuring that out now. If not, maybe next week. Yeah. But I don't think it's not under embargo anymore. Today's the 30th. Yeah, it's not under embargo anymore. Yeah. We have the bubble case that is so controversial. Oh, that's a controversial pick, perhaps. But the thing is that it's not everybody on the staff against me though. So it's just me versus Adam on this one. So it's the Height X50. It's the one that I think Adam finds aesthetically offensive. I'm paraphrasing here. And it has got these really, to me, fun, rounded corners and look. And the folks over at Height were kind enough to send me one so I could do a live build, so I could just kind of see what it's like to build in it. And I'm going to have you all watch with me, so you can also get the experience as well.
Hey.
Heck yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So that does it for today's show. Let's see. Can I do this off the top of my head? I think I'm gonna try. I don't have Will. Will usually helps me a little bit because he knows the spiel. Teaser. Yeah, I know exactly. That's basically what it is. So, thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to check back next week for your dose of hardware talk here on the Full Nerd Show. Also, be sure to check out the Full Nerd Network, which is what our YouTube channel is called now, because we also have other shows, which includes Dual Boot Diaries, our show where Will and Adam are dual booting Windows and Linux to see which one they decide they want to stick with. So I believe this week is episode 5, or is it 6 that's coming out?
I think it's 5.
Yeah, so it's a limited run series. They won't be doing it forever. I think after, X number of episodes, I think the number is TBD, they are going to make that final call. And we get to go on the journey with them. And they've talked about some really good stuff so far, like the different distros they've tried, the different, desktop experiences tried, things that they're, having problems with, things that they like. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Also, I do write a newsletter every week, which I referenced earlier, and that is on the PCWorld.com website. So it is basically called the Full Nerd Newsletter. And what I do is I talk about some kind of news piece or some kind of, topic that's on my mind. And I also give a little recap of the show. Plus, I have a bunch of links in there from the week of news that I find or interesting things that I find on the web and decide that I want to share with you all because I think you might find it interesting too. You can sign up for that on PCWorld.com/newsletters, plural, /sign up. And you can also check out our other cool newsletters there. My colleague Dominic Bailey does one called Try This, and he has some really cool tips that he shares every week. And I've actually gotten quite a few really fun ones. Like I think the most recent one that I really dig was the bold move, writing something about how you spend your free time on lunch. Sorry, I'm just giving you a little fun here, Dom, of how you spend your day. But one of them is basically animal live stream videos. I'm very in favor of this. So thanks, Dom. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's cool. The whole concept of that newsletter is basically here's something cool. Here's a little feature you can turn on. Here's a website you can check out. Here's an app you can try. Takes you 30 seconds to read it, download it, try it.
Yeah, it's very quick. Yeah, it's super fun. So, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And you can also, catch us via audio format on, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and as Will in chat is actually specifically directing me to mention now, Deezer. And leave us a review. We love to hear from you all every time you do. I think one of us develops a fondness for something that the rest of us all hate. Whether it's tech or food, who knows? We'll find out.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one, but let's carry on.
You know what? Somebody has to be a champion for something niche, right? Somebody has to be the standard bearer for it. Maybe not everything, but some things are worth doing that for. But thank you so much to Brad for being my co-host, actually co-hosting and, running the topics for me at one point. So I love that. Thank you. Less work for me.
See you. Nice hanging out.
Thank you for making time in your very busy remote work schedule for us, Mark.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
And Willis, thank you as always for making sure the hamsters are running and not escaping and keeping us cats mostly in this correct pen. Take us out.
All right. Thanks, Elena. Great job hosting. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We're going to go try to get a McFlurry and see if we can mix the Jaffa cake in. So we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
The chair dance.